But that is the most common description people give, is that my land is very flat, and it never is. So I never promise slope or grade to the customer. I always just say it will usually be around the average of the home sites on either side of it. But that's a generalization and it could be different. That's my response to how flat is this going to be. I say no driveway and no home site will ever be flat. I promise you that. Because the intentional design of the home site is for it to be sloped so that it properly drains. Because as a part of the whole community, every home site needs to drain, and every home site is a part of the master plan of the whole community properly draining, so that you don't end up with things like standing water in the streets, or standing water in somebody's yard or up against a foundation. So everything is not flat by design. And so your driveway will have a slope to it. It's just a matter of how steep that slope will be.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's usually how I try to explain it to them. And
And
then
the,
go ahead.
sorry. Oh, I was just going to mention we have a topaz here that just got finished, and their driveway is very flat. And so, actually, what happened now after the rain, I went in there, and they're standing water. So that's going to be your main issue there. But I brought that to John's attention. I think they're getting it taken care of. But
Yeah, you have an occasional scenario. Jordan, you remember the home that the driveway went from the street like 10 feet downhill to the front of the house?
In Oak Ridge?
The Sequoia out in
Oh,
Fox Lair.
Yeah, that in Oklahoma City, yeah.
Yeah, we had this home. I wish I had a picture of this, you guys. It was insane. Like the worst driveway I've ever seen on a home, bar none. Like you go from the street, you go up over what's almost like a speed bump just to get off of the street. And then you go down like a downhill ski course into the front of the house. It was crazy. And that home was beautiful, beautiful home. The inside of it was like amazing. The backyard was amazing, but holy cow, you better have a jacked up, lifted four-wheel drive truck to get into the home. And don't ever try and go in on a day when it's snowing or even maybe raining, because you'll probably just go through the front door of the home. It was wild. So sometimes with topography, there are some anomaly ones too, where you do get that. And we always did where the garage door comes down to close. We always did a notch in the concrete right there so that the water couldn't flow into the garage. And we did that because before we did that, guess what happened? We had one home site that kind of went downhill towards the home, and we didn't do that on it. And the first day they were moved in, we had a torrential downpour. It was like one of those days where we had like tornado warnings like all day long because there was just crazy storms coming through. And yeah, they left for a few hours and then they came home and everything, they had all their boxes still in the garage and everything was drenched.
Oh.
So we started putting that little lip on that after that.
Is there like a common like grade difference, like the base of the garage door, say, to the center of the street? Like is that sort of like a common height?
Well, the grade is from the garage door to the beginning of the street, not the middle of the street.
Okay.
Because the beginning where the street and the driveway come together is supposed to be a trough, because that actually carries the water down the side of the street so that it goes into the drains that are against the curb. So that is actually a low point. Is the road crowns and goes down, if I could exaggerate it.
Right.
The center of the road is the high point and it goes down to the curbs on both sides. And so the driveways to the side of the street is actually the trough. So that's the low point to carry the water down the side of the street. And so, but the slope, I believe, is a 1/4 inch per foot is no, sorry. An inch per 4 feet is what it is. So, you want it to like go down overall from the front of the garage. But the problem is that sometimes it's not possible.
Sure.
And so then you end up with what we call a swale. I mean, we're getting really deep in the weeds here, but you end up creating a swale, which means as you go from the street to the house, you actually put the low point in the center of the driveway, and then you shed the water from left to right instead, so that it goes around the home. So you might get a little bit of ponding in a driveway like that because
Hey, Matt.
there's no
Hey,
avoiding.
How are you?
Good.
You got a second?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nope,
Oh,
you're right.
are you in a meeting?
I'm on Zoom.
Oh, I can.
Anyways, I'm gonna throw him in the waiting room. He can come back later. But is this an exciting conversation about water, you guys? Are you liking this? These
Love
are
it.
these are the real things though. Like you run into this stuff. Let me talk about, since we're on the subject, let's talk about a few other things. I mean, having done a lot of builder coaching over the years, when you're talking to home builders and you're kind of like coaching them on it, if they're getting into the development side of things, they got to think about this a lot, and they got to make sure that their engineers are working through this, because you always have to have like a master plan drainage for the entire community. And every home site in the community is a part of the master plan of the drainage of the whole community. And there are things called overland drainage easements, which carry water across the yards of the homes. So sometimes, like the low point in a community, I'll just go back to this one, although this is not a great example. Let me go to a Flint Rock one because you guys have a few that are like this. You definitely have this out at the Brooks as well. You've got a bunch of drainage scenarios out there, but we'll just use this one real quick. Let's go to the hill that is pleasant, shall we? So in this scenario, let's just go to this. Let's take this center block right here. And sometimes what you'll end up with in these scenarios is you'll end up with the low point running behind the homes, right through the middle. Okay. So sometimes the builder will create, or the developer really will create what we call an overland drainage easement. And let's say the high point is up here by Swiss Road, right? This is the high point, and the low point is down at the other end of the block. That can happen sometimes where the high point is up at the top here, low point is down at the bottom, and there's a trough that runs through the backyards of all of these homes. I'm not saying it is that way in Pleasant Hill. I'm just saying that can be the case. And so you'll have the home sites actually have an overland drainage easement. I had a neighborhood in Jenks in Oklahoma one time that this was the case. And actually it was on the outside of the neighborhood. And about where I'm drawing this line here, about this much of the home site to the back, from that line to the back of the home site, was in the floodplain, the 100-year floodplain. And so it was so much in the floodplain because this area in Jenks, I don't know if you remember this, Jordan, what neighborhood this was. It was on the backside of Simmons had that neighborhood off of 111th in Jenks. Anyways, I can't remember the name of this neighborhood.
Where the Venda model was?
We never ended up with a model in there. It was like, no. Anyways, so the backs of these home sites, they were like a half acre because they had to be, because a quarter of the acre went into the floodplain. The covenants for the neighborhood made it so that all of these home sites along here had to have mesh wire fencing so that the water could pass through because they expected your yard to flood.
Oh,
And we had another one. Rushbrook was this way too. You remember that?
Yeah.
Rushbrook, half of the home sites were in the floodplain, which meant you had a really big backyard, as long as it wasn't raining a lot. And so those are called overland drainage easements, which create a lot of slope because the low spot runs through the backyard. And the reason I wanted to point out this scenario, when you have this scenario that the trough goes through the backyards, that's intentionally engineered that way a lot of times in developments. And what that means is that customers, here's the thing that customers do, and this will come and bite you in the butt at least once a year with a customer. I'm just going to tell you. You will run into it and they will tell you it is all our fault, and it is not at all our fault. But what happens is the customer moves in and then they put really pretty raised planting beds in the backyard. And guess what that does? The water's draining, draining, draining. And home site 41, this guy right here, probably named Carl, it's probably a Carl. Carl decides to do raised planting beds in the backyard. What do you think that does to the water when it's trying to flow through?
It don't.
It becomes a
gonna
dam. It's a dam problem. It becomes a dam. You see what I did there? You guys thought I cussed, but I didn't. I was using the word damn in a sentence. It was a damn problem for the customers.